Peskies Pest Control. Put your bugs on the run. Call 205-470-8161.
Welcome to another episode of Peskies Pest Control Podcast here in Birmingham, Alabama with Michael and Travis. We do this podcast as a community service for Birmingham, Hoover, Vestavia Hills, Mountain Brook, Helena, Alabaster, Pelham, and all other surrounding areas. Hey, so here today on the Peskies Pest Control Podcast, we are talking about mosquitoes. I feel like spring is in the air. I woke up for the last couple of days with my nose a little snotty and sniffly, and it's just getting hot. Travis?
No, don't even, I'm not ready. No, I'm not. I refuse to give up winter. No matter how brutal it actually was at times over the last couple of weeks, I'm still holding on to hope that there's some kind of residual that's going to come back and, actually show itself again, because spring and summer are not my most favorite times of the year.
I am feeling that right now. I was taking my kids to school this morning, and it just feels a little humid out, a little too humid for what it should be.
For February, yes. So,
yes. You said I know we were talking earlier. You said you saw some mosquitoes yesterday already.
Right. I had a customer whose house I went to shortly after 4:00 yesterday afternoon. And as I was getting my products ready and my sprayers to go treat their house, yes, I had mosquitoes buzzing around my head already. And like I said, it's only February.
Well, as we've seen them in December. I've been deer hunting before and seen them in a climber. So, right there in December. So perfect. I mean, even in February. Let's talk about some ways to just help customers not get rid of them, but just stop them from being so bad at their property. As far as, getting the water, diverted away from their house, like all that kind of stuff.
Right. So, for those that may or may not know, mosquitoes breed in standing, stagnant water. So they land on top of the surface of the water. Surface tension holds them so they don't sink, and they basically deposit their eggs onto the stagnant water. And it can be, as much water as inside of a tire that's been left there filled up with water from rain for a while, or it can be as little water as a cap full from, a soda bottle. It doesn't take a whole lot of water for them to actually be able to reproduce. And so it really takes a lot of diligence on part of the customer, a lot of effort on part of the customer to make sure that they do not have standing water sources in their yard. And you and I have both seen it before. These things can range anywhere from, like I said, tires to just trash that's holding water. We've got a lot of customers that live around the lake that cover their boats or their jet skis with tarps.
That's a good one.
Yeah, the tarps just completely hold the water, and they don't go drain the water off after a rain, and it just collects. And then leaf litter and that leaf debris that gets in there just makes it even more attractive for them, for a stagnant source. Just 5-gallon buckets full of rainwater, rain barrels. People that have rain barrels that collect water from their gutters, clogged gutters. That's another big one. Leaf litter in gutters clogs it and it holds water. Just think about it. If you had a gutter on the edge of your porch where you like to go and enjoy yourself and sit out in the evenings or what have you, and you've got standing water because it's not draining, well, the mosquitoes are just breeding right there and then coming down and eating you alive. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like you mentioned earlier, incomplete drainage in yards. Maybe it's also an area that not only does it not drain, but it doesn't get a lot of sunlight, so it never dries out. French drains in yards where you've got the drain in the ground. Some of those don't empty all the way, and you could just be creating the next breed of mosquitoes coming through your property.
Well, that's what I was going to talk about. Hidden places that people wouldn't think about. I mean, we've seen problem accounts, or what we'd consider a problem account, where they have a bunch of basins in their yard all that water is going in there and it's hidden. You don't see all the water that's just caught in that basin where it's, a slow drain and all that kind of stuff. I've never understood why they did that. I don't know why it wouldn't just be a faster drain.
Right.
Other than to keep it from getting clogged, I guess.
Yeah, there's just so many places that water can stay and be held in people's property. And a lot of them can be just overlooked. We've got some storage buildings in my yard. I don't go behind them very often. And so if I were to stick a bucket back there, even a bucket flipped over, that will hold water on the bottom of the bucket that's sitting up in the air. I mean, that's enough water to breed hundreds and hundreds of mosquitoes and to really cause a problem and to really make control efforts a little more challenging.
100%. Well, and I'm glad you said the control. So let's talk about one way that we, help with controlling the water that we can't control. So we're flipping over buckets. We're moving over, bird baths need to be changed out. I would say, weekly, every 2 weeks, something like that. So it doesn't build up a stagnant pool. But the control with that IGR is really key on the drains in the yard, such as that matter of getting rid of that problem, because you can't control that.
Right. And for those watching and listening, IGR stands for insect growth regulator. So we use a mixture that has a couple of different active ingredient products in there. And what that IGR does is it is a long-term game in terms of mosquito control. So picture you have a technician come to your house. They treat your lawn and landscape areas with a liquid mosquito treatment that's got that IGR in it. And so let's say after that treatment is dry, the technician's gone, the mosquito lands on the underside of leaves that has this IGR on it. Well, not only is that mosquito now contaminated with that IGR, which is going to take an effect on that mosquito and slowly mess with it to where it can't breed anymore, but then it's going to go land on a water source and it's going to contaminate that water source too, so that other mosquitoes that touch it could be contacting the IGR, and then those mosquito larvae that are already in the water, it should mess with their development so that they don't even develop all the way into a biting mosquito as they go and continue to develop. So it's a great product and it's a great addition to a mosquito control program.
Oh yeah, I'd say it's a must-have, because if you're not controlling that life cycle, if you're just killing the adult mosquitoes as they buzz around and get under this shaded area, these trees and decks and all that, then you're only taking care of one half of it, or not even less than one half.
Right. And we're, not only are we applying the IGR in our mixture that we're using, along with an adulticide that's going to kill mosquitoes on contact as well. But we're also going back to those stagnant water sources. Our technicians actively are looking for those stagnant water sources. And yes, you know how it is that there's sometimes where those sources can't be drained or dumped, or the water be removed so that they're no longer a breeding site, especially when you talk about areas of a yard that hold a lot of water that don't drain properly or don't dry. So we also use another product called a larvicide. So Michael, elaborate for the listeners about a larvicide.
Yeah, so a larvicide, so you're going to go around the property and you're looking for any areas that you cannot control the water flow. Like we said, if you see a bucket, can flip that over. A bird bath, we can change that out. But something that we can't, such as a drain in your backyard, front yard, we're going to put that larvicide in there. It's good for 30 days. So any breeding mosquitoes that breed in that water, those eggs will never develop into live mosquitoes.
Right. And so all these things are things that can be done on your property. But Michael, as I'm sure you've seen before, I can give an example. I had a customer who we were trying to do mosquito control at, and it was okay, but it wasn't as great as it could be. And what we discovered is that the neighbor directly behind that customer's property, who we weren't treating, we didn't have any mosquito service at that customer's property, behind them, they had an old above ground swimming pool.
It's always a swimming pool.
It is. And with about maybe, I would say, a foot or so, maybe a little more of water in it. and the water was a beautiful shade of green with all types of leaf litter and trash and debris in it. And so, I mean, it was just a haven for these mosquitoes to breed in. And, unfortunately, we can't control what it is the neighbor's doing.
That's true. So, in terms of control, we like to say I like to say an 85 to 95% reduction of mosquitoes is a win, because you can still have some mosquitoes, but you're going to get rid of the majority of the mosquitoes and be able to enjoy that backyard. I mean, Travis, you treat your house, I treat my house. We've got some pretty good standing water issues. I know I do. I know in some areas where it rains in your house, you get some little bowl issues in the yard. So I would not treat my yard in the summertime.
Right. My kids get torn up by mosquitoes if I don't. But, that is the good thing about our mosquito control program, especially when you really factor in the use of that insect growth regulator. Like you said, 85 to 95% reduction is great. That's huge, especially when you deal with some of the amount of mosquitoes that I've seen before. I mean, when you walk outside, you're there for less than a minute and you've got, 6, 8, 10 mosquitoes buzzing around your ankles and your feet. Before you even, can take in the outside that you just walked out to. But that IGR is really great because obviously mosquitoes fly. They can kind of go wherever they want to. But if they contact that IGR, and then let's just say that the neighbor across the street has one tire sitting against a storage shed in their yard that's collecting water, that's become this breeding site that they haven't addressed. Well, now there's that potential that mosquito could spread that IGR to that breeding site and hopefully render it less effective or completely ineffective for mosquito breeding. And in that way, kind of extend that treatment over somewhere where obviously we can't go physically apply something. So it really is kind of a nice additive to have in there to try to help control, because I mean, no matter how much mosquito control you can do, they're at the end of the day, like we said, they fly. So they're not very heavy. So the wind can blow them too. I mean, they can be pushed around and all that too. So I don't think anybody can really ever promise a 100% reduction in mosquitoes just because of the way that they are. However, I think it's definitely reasonable to think 85 to 95% reduction for most of the properties we deal with.
I think that's great. And something that a lot of people miss too is gutters. I mean, over in Birmingham, Montgomery, we've got a lot of trees, and over the winter, some people do, some people don't get all the gutters cleaned out or don't even know that they're clogged, and all that stagnant water. There's really not a product in the world that's going to take care of that.
Well, not even going to try to be hypocritical here, because I have 2 areas with gutters.
Oh, me too.
And downspouts on my own awnings on my house, 3 areas actually. And it is one of my least favorite chores in the world to get up there and clean them. So much so that, I mean, we even had a rainstorm come in one day, and the gutters were so clogged and the downspouts were so slow at draining that the water ended up actually gushing over the side of the gutter and like bowing it. And just because of the weight of the water, it was starting to bow one of the little beams that holds my top of my porch, or awning up, my awning up. And so, yeah, I hate it that much. And I've tried to become a little bit more diligent about it, but it's really something that you need to stay on top of to make sure that there's no breeding site up there, because it's just not immediately in your thought process, because it's not immediately in your view.
Well, and you can go off, and that leads to termite damage on a pest control. It can lead to carpenter ant damage. It can lead to a lot of other issues besides just mosquitoes.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like that old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. You can get a lot done by just being diligent and eliminating those water sources from around your property. You can get a lot done, and your family will thank you. Your neighbors will thank you. Don't be that bad neighbor that's got 25 tires with all water in them, stacked up, and you're breeding mosquitoes. Like, be that good neighbor that's helping the problem, because everybody wins, everybody benefits. I mean, Mosquitoes are known to carry many different viruses that cause many different health hazards for you, for your pets. I mean, Zika virus, all those things. Your pets can get heartworms. They get them from mosquito bites.
Yep.
So there's just a lot of benefits from keeping these insects away from your property.
Well, and didn't we see some was it encephalitis last year?
Yeah, I think it was going around. I mean, some of the lesser known things that people, might not be necessarily aware of, like I said, Zika virus, yellow fever, dengue, malaria is a big one, especially in some of your overseas countries, West Nile virus, all of these things, like you said, encephalitis, and they all come from just a mosquito bite. And it's a strong possibility that, they could make you, your family, or your animals sick.
Thank you for listening to the Peskies Pest Control Podcast here in Birmingham, Alabama with Michael and Travis. If you have any questions about what we've discussed today, please give us a call at 205-470-8161 and ask for me, Michael Wienecke. I'll be happy to speak with you anytime. And don't forget to share this podcast with your friends and subscribe to us on Apple, Amazon, Google, and Spotify. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Google Peskies Pest Control.